Welcome back to the Hall of Fame College Football Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Watkins, and if you love college football, you are definitely in the right place. So before you forget, smash that red subscriber button, like our videos, and don't forget to ring the bell so you don't miss one moment of the Hall of Fame College Football Podcast. Folks, I want to thank everybody once again for helping us get over that 1,000 subscriber mark on YouTube. It has been very humbling to grow this audience as quickly as we have on this channel. So I just wanted to thank everybody once again. Today we have a special treat. I am going to be bringing in a friend of mine from the Locked On Big 12 Network in Mr. Cody Stovall. What we're going to be talking about is a little bit of Oklahoma State. I'm not going to call them Okie Light today just to be nice. But just to talk a little bit about that, it continues to be an outward flow of what you would expect to have been important players to this program, albeit some of them, you would have expected them to be gone. But in the last, as of today, you saw them lose their fourth wide receiver in the last week to the transfer portal in John Paul Richardson making a transfer commitment to the Texas Christian Horned Frogs. I'm going to bring in our guest, Cody Stovall, now. Cody, welcome to the show, sir.
Howdy. How's it going, brother man?
Good, man. I appreciate you coming on the show today.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, congrats on the 1,000K subs, brother. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. When you're growing, right? You'll accept the slow game as long as it's consistent and steady. So that's legit. Good job, man.
Man, it's been kind of a wild ride. It's we started kind of just talking, sports in general. Then we went to more college football, and the next thing you know, it was Oklahoma and college football, mostly the Big 12, so stuff like that. And listen, you've definitely been one of my favorite follows on YouTube as well. I enjoyed going on your show a couple of weeks back and stuff, but just to kind of get into some of this stuff that I catch a lot of flack for some of the stuff I have to say about Oklahoma State. I know you kind of do the same thing with OU, but it's to us it's a fun thing back and forth. We kind of mess with each other a little bit back and forth. But the thing is, I guess when you start looking at this whole deal, and this is something that we've talked about on my show a little bit in the past, when you lose as many players, and I think it's like 16, 17 guys to the portal, and some of them you're losing. I mean, we're talking about obviously Spencer Sanders being a big one. I know he was asking to come back. Coach Gundy said no, or at least that's the rumor out there.
Right.
Then you've got the last couple of days, we're finding out that the defensive coordinator, Derek Mason's leaving the program. My question was, you would
most likely
losing the program. Okay. Well, my question would be is, with all of these offensive players, particularly, starting receivers, what are we at? Like 3 or 4 of your top 6 pass catchers from a year ago or from this past season that are no longer with the program.
Correct.
And you're losing some of these guys. You had your top rusher, Dominic Richardson. Now he's at Baylor. Obviously hadn't seen anything where Spencer's going anywhere just yet. You would assume he'll end up on somebody's roster, I would think.
Yeah, it seems to be leaning Ole Miss there, but they've got the Jackson Dart thing. I was told a little while back that it was going to be Auburn, but then Auburn brings in Hugh Freeze, and Hugh Freeze has different ideas. And
correct.
So it's he supposedly circled the wagons. Well, we know he circled the wagons. We know there was conversations. Supposedly, yes, Gundy had already decided before that we were moving on. So.
Which is weird to me in view of the fact, just to stay on Spencer Sanders for a second, that's kind of weird to me in view of the fact that when you start talking preseason, even in the early 4 or 5 games when they started off undefeated, where he's kind of labeling him, and Gundy being probably one of the best quarterbacks in OSU history, was labeling Spencer as the best quarterback in Oklahoma State history. Yes, and now no need for the guy anymore. So my question is something that I've noticed kind of in the last little bit is what's the deal with Casey Dunn, the offensive coordinator? It appears I've been seeing stuff about there's a lot of there's been an awful lot of people talking about abusive behavior in the meeting room, on the practice field, things like that. And it appears that he has something to do with this mass exodus from that room in particular, or maybe even just entirely on offense. Why is there no movement there?
That is the $1 million question that everybody in Stillwater wants to know as well. We just had our worst year since 2005, and we have done nothing as far as movement goes. Now, as far as the players leaving, you hit on Spencer Sanders, but we've talked about that before. You could just kind of feel that, right? That was like that divorce that was just hanging on at the very end. It was an amicable split there at the end. Now, why Gundy flipped and turned like he did, I think that's pretty clear. Gundy is he's a stubborn dude, man. Right. And sometimes
they all are. Bro.
Sometimes it can be a benefit. Right. Sometimes it can help you in your ascension. But sometimes, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, you just want to stop beating your head against the wall. Right. Because not only do we not get any information, right? Now, and I saw you recently, now there's the narrative police that want to make sure that the information that gets out of Stillwater, it's like we want to keep everything in this little Boone Pickens box. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Look, Mike Boynton, he'll talk about injuries. He'll talk about the game. He'll talk about practice. He'll talk about what went wrong, what went right, what they need to fix, how to fix it. John Smith is the same way. J.C. Hoyt's the same. You know what I mean? And Josh Holliday's actually fairly open about what's going on, but not Mike Gundy. So not only do we get the mum's the word treatment all the daggone time, but then you have this stuff going on. And I don't care what kind of narrative policeman you think you are. If you got 6-7 wide receivers, right? And a couple of them were pegged as the absolute future. John Paul Richardson, Stephon Johnson Jr., and Talon Shetron were supposed to be that three-headed monster that carried us for the next 3-4 years. So
I would even bring in Braylon Presley on that as well. And this is a guy that went to Tulsa. You go from OSU to Tulsa, and not to bash
his
on
brother's
Tulsa
on the team, and his brother's dating the OC's daughter, and he don't want to stay, and it's all on him.
Right. And again, I mean, whether he was ready to play as a true freshman or whatever, it that's questionable. I can understand that.
Oh, for sure.
But I would say that for everything that they were talking about preseason is that this is a Tyreek Hill kind of player that we can use him at a lot of positions. He's going to help the offense a lot. And then you lose him to Tulsa. That just seems odd to me. I mean, and why would he want to leave if there's not something going on? That why would you take and go to Tulsa? It just doesn't make any sense.
Agreed, man. Agreed. And there's other rumblings going around, and that's the hard part, right? Because of how difficult Gundy is with media, right? You're not allowed to ask him a legitimate question. And if you do ask him a legitimate question, you get chastised for it.
Right. And which we talked about this a little bit off of air, but let's just go back. I mean, if you go back 1 year from right now, even, you guys and when I say you guys, I mean, Oklahoma State fans are, well, there's a little disappointment there because you missed that playoff by quote inches. Right. But in truth of it, and as an Oklahoma fan, I have my beliefs about that too. Is you didn't lose by inches, you lost by 4 interceptions in the championship game to a team that you blew out in the regular season. So it seemed weird to me in any event. But that being said, you have the better part of that team is coming back for this season. They start off 4-5-0 before losing.
It wasn't pretty, but.
And then you lose a 17-point lead on the road to TCU. Kind of, we've said on our show is that was really the game that sent TCU moving.
And it's the game that sent us backwards. You
correct.
could see that the locker room just kind of changed a little bit right there.
Well, listen, that was where you started hearing those rumblings about when you hear, he comes out after the game. Coach Gundy comes out after the game. And, well, that one wasn't as fun as the last few, saying stuff like that.
No
and
big deal.
it was real ho-hum, no biggie. except that you're hearing from out of the locker room that there was a lot of pissed off players,
Well,
about the fact that they had lost.
more than pissed off. I would say it's I don't know, disappointment maybe, right? Because I think we talked about it whenever I had you on my show. Let's just face it, guys. Gundy's a legend. He'll get the statue the whole 9 yards. But dudes want to play for somebody like a Sonny Dykes. Dudes want to play for somebody that they want to run through a brick
Preaching
wall for,
toughness
and
and
they
doing
want to
things like
feel
that.
like you're going to run through a brick wall for them as well.
Sure.
And unfortunately, we're not getting that. And again, if you have narrative police, you cannot continue to keep narratives inside Boone Pickens Stadium and expect any kind of growth, right? We have
No
some
way.
issues that instead of talking about or fixing, we try to kind of keep compartmentalized, and then we wonder why we always have the number 40 recruiting class.
Well, and we're going to get into some of this in just a second, but I guess my question was, starting off with this whole deal, a year ago, here you are, you're this close to getting to that college football playoff. You could have been that team to get there. And then a year later, it's 7-6. It's a mass exodus of players. And I got to tell you, with all these guys that are leaving, and you've got right as of right now, it's the number 67 recruiting class in the country. I know you've done really well through the transfer portal in certain spots, but
Right.
you lost the starting quarterback. It does not look to me like any of the guys that are in the room are ready to be your starting caliber quarterback. I know who's the new guy you just brought in?
Alan Bowman.
Maybe
who tore
he
it
is.
up as a freshman at Tech, and then just
Okay. And maybe he is, but he didn't do anything his next season at Tech. Right. And that could be the new coaching staff differences in philosophy. Who knows? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe he'll be ready to rock and roll.
Mm-hmm.
The point is he's definitely not going to be Spencer Sanders.
Right.
And even if he is, who the hell do you got to throw to? You're losing all these guys. You may still have the other Presley kid. There's some other kids I know that you're bringing in. But if you're losing this many guys that are starting caliber and you're not able to replace all of them, is there any chance you're anything better than middle of the road? And if that is the case, how long do you continue? If you're an Oklahoma State fan, or definitely a member of the, of the people that make choices for Oklahoma State, how long do you continue allowing this man to have this revolving $8 million a year deal? Torpedo the program. And I mean, that's really what it is torpedoing this program.
That one seems to be recently managed a little bit differently. Uh-huh. So I'm hearing that the AD has kind of put some constraints on Gundy this season. And Gundy is kind of on a 12-month. Yeah, Gundy's got 12 months to figure some stuff out, supposedly now. And you just heard that we got the final the release of all the Boone Pickens money that he left us in his will. It just got released last week. So from a financial perspective, we're fine. NIL perspective, we're fine. It appears as though if we do the same old 12 months from now, Chad Weiberg is willing to potentially stir the hornet's nest, which is obviously a very, very good thing. But that's the thing, man. It's like, I think all of us would like to see Gundy be successful.
Of course,
it's not a personal thing against Gundy.
Well, the guy, hey, listen, how can it be when he played for your program? He was one of the best, probably the best quarterback in OSU history.
Yeah, he treats us like we're not smart enough to know what's going on, so we don't need to know what's going on. Right. And go look at the trophy case. You can't be the greatest of all time and have one trophy.
Yeah, and one conference championship. Yep. 3 wins in Bedlam. And I'll tell you that I believe that the whole not playing Bedlam thing anymore, that's not serving that is not serving Oklahoma State. And let me just and the reason why I'll say that is because I feel like, if anything, if you get better as a program, it's because of competing with the best programs. Mm-hmm. Oklahoma and Texas are about to be out, right? But you can't tell me that it's not going to be better for you as a program to have to play 100%. These guys every year and prepare yourself in a better way.
I'm actually in the minority there. I would prefer to continue it. And here's the deal: look at a lot of these rivalries.
Yeah.
They come back, right?
Right.
We'll be having some more bedlams, I would say, in the next 8 to 10 years. But the scheduling thing, when you're booked up because we're booked up through 2028, we have 2 open years, but those 2 open years are both tentatively scheduled to be Tulsa to roll in, right? So yes,
Right.
we could remove Tulsa off of those 2 dates and make something work. It's very possible we could do that. Why we don't do that, I don't know. But I would say after this, this
Just for the
8-year
sake of
kind of
money,
window,
you would figure that they would want to do it. You know what I mean?
if
For
we
no
don't
other,
renew the rivalry in the next 9 years, I would be surprised and disappointed.
right. Yeah. In any event, I guess the main question would be, what is the deal with Casey Dunn? Do you feel like there's a lot of smoke there? Is there fire? Is this a real problem? And why is he not pulling pulling the plug on it?
I love that you said that. Okay, so there typically, yes, there is going to be smoke where there's fire, but I just found out 2 days ago, and I really I didn't know this. I should have known, but I just found out that 2 days ago, if I don't talk to Gundy directly, then all of this stuff is not true. But so I'll have to text Gundy and hopefully he texts me back. I'm being sarcastic, but yeah, no.
Oh
Dude,
yeah, I bet he's all over
I
texting
was
you back.
having people tell me that, well, I bet you didn't interview Gundy about this. What? No, I didn't, because Gundy doesn't do interviews.
Right,
Gundy doesn't ask questions or answer questions. So you're right. I haven't talked to Gundy.
And how
But
dare you ask him anything
I've
about
talked to
his
parents
program?
and players, and I've had parents on, and we've had people on Spaces. This is not new, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's been some old school issues with Casey Dunn in the locker room the last couple of years, I guess. And instead of addressing it and fixing it and doing something about it so we can, up our recruiting, we would rather kind of keep it on the down low. And I'm getting trashed because it is what it is.
I saw somebody tell you that he's been the best recruiter on the staff for however many years, and I'm thinking,
correct.
Well, what is that? If he's the best one on the staff, and they consistently rank in the 40s, and this year right now they're at 67.
Yeah.
Who the hell cares if he's the best one? They suck at it. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Again, man, there's some head scratchers with Gundy, which again, to me, which is why 2023 is the biggest season of his career. He's coaching for his job. And,
right.
and to me, that's the crux of the situation, really. If he knows that, obviously things aren't great, right? This is the largest percentage of the fan base that's ever been like, well, look at TCU, look at Gary Patterson. Is it time, right? You're finally having that conversation at least take place. And instead of making changes and making announcements and stopping the bleeding, right? The only thing we've done is slap a couple Band-Aids on a bullet hole whenever you consider that we brought in Alan Bowman, and we also brought in a 6'5", 210-pound wide receiver named Leon Johnson III. So we're plugging some holes, yes, but it's like everything else we're not talking about. We're pretending it's not there, right? Casey Dunn's still there. Dickey's still there. McIndoe's still there. Rattay's still there. Everybody that was directly responsible for this 7-6 dumpster fire of a daggone season is still there.
That's some of the things that you're hearing out of these recruits that are leaving, right? We don't have to bring up Trace Ford so much, but I will say this: like when it comes to Dominic Richardson, why Baylor over OSU? And he said, what does he say? Family atmosphere. That used to be what they said about Oklahoma State.
Correct.
Family atmosphere. Yeah. Where is that? I mean, and that's where I feel like when you brought up, Patterson just now, it had run its course there. They had done all they were going to do under Gary.
Right.
He was getting to where he felt, or it was clear that he felt like he was untouchable. They could get away with doing whatever and however little needed to be done. And then, finally, after the second or third real stupid thing that was going on between them and SMU, they let him go. And I feel like Sonny Dykes was a great move on their part.
Yeah.
Particularly you kind of take advantage of the fact that you were left a really good defense, bring in a little offense, and let's run with it. And let's see what they can do. Now, what TCU does from here on out, I don't know. What I would tell you is that with the Big 12 looking the way that it looks moving forward, without Texas, without Oklahoma, you as a program, if you're Oklahoma State, and you as a program, if you're Baylor, you don't have a lot of movement to hurry up and get to the front, because you could very easily go back to the middle and the bottom of the pack.
Yeah.
Because UCF has the largest, they have the largest alumni base in the country. They have the largest enrollment in the country, and they are recruiting the hell out of Florida. And now they're getting a footprint in Texas too, because of the fact they're coming to the Big 12.
Yeah.
Right. So if you think these guys are nothing, you're crazy.
It's not going to get easier.
I'm not positive that I think a whole lot of Houston right now, because I feel like Holgorsen, quite similarly to Gundy, thinks that, that whole thing earlier this season where he said none of this is on me, when they've got a culture issue in the locker room as well. I don't think that he's standing on very solid footing.
He's not. I think he's in the same position as Gundy. It's 2023 or bust.
I think he is, and I think he ran away from West Virginia, and it didn't look good to me the way that he ran off for West Virginia for, quote, greener pastures,
right?
That may not be greener.
It was an odd move.
It was a real weird move. Yeah. Yeah. And so, but in a lot of that same kind of deal about, I mean, look at what's happened with them since then. It's easy to sit here and blame their new coach, which Neil's been there. This is his fourth season or whatever. I'm surprised that Neil survived.
Yeah.
And,
I'm surprised he's still there.
Yeah, I am too. But by all accounts, he's the nice guy of the group. And so they kind of want to keep him around for whatever reason. That being said, I feel like this is a time that Oklahoma State should be moving to the forefront of this conference, and because they are the old guard that's left.
Right, correct. Yes, I agree.
And yet, you hear things like, we're not going to get a better coach than Gundy, for $8 million. I mean, we said this on your show, but for $8 million, somebody, I mean, you're going to tell me you can't go and find a Robert Traylor that's won back-to-back conference championships at UTSA. You can't go get the, UNLV dumped a Royal for whatever stupid reason that they did. But that guy's out there and available, and I would take him in a heartbeat. You know what I mean? There's a lot of coaches out there. You're going to tell me, you're going to tell me that you couldn't have went and got Luke Fickell at some point to come from Cincinnati. I have a hard time believing that.
Well, right. You don't think somebody like a Todd Monken will take $8 million?
Even $5. I mean, look, Deion Sanders went to Colorado for $5 million.
Right. Correct. Yeah.
You know, and you're gonna tell me that if Coach Prime wasn't offered that same money to go to Oklahoma State, get to compete with Oklahoma, and be a pain in their ass for the next however many years, right? On the recruiting trail and everywhere else, you don't think that he would have jumped all over that? Because I do. I think he would have. You know what I mean? Well, maybe this is a great position for him at Colorado. I'm just saying.
Oh, I agree.
There's situationally he could have done some of these kind of same deals, right?
Well, you talked earlier. Do we still have enough, to be competitive? And I think the answer to that question is yes, right? Because it's no doubt this was the most talented roster we've ever kind of put together. And the benefit of having 12 freshmen play over 800 snaps, you got to think that, right, that's going to equal a better sophomore campaign. Now, I would have said with Derek Mason, right, and this defense next season, we were going to be very, 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 very good on defense and very fun to watch nonetheless, right? Even if good's not the right word, fun to watch is. A perfect example would be a Kendall Daniels. The dude, he's a 6'5", 200-pound monster. And you see him fly by people, blow up running backs. He missed the quarterback with the ball, but he came in so fast and missed so many, you know what I mean? Took out so many dudes. You can just see like, oh crap, that's impressive. Right. That's what next season's defense could be from an athletic perspective. And then with Derek Mason, you're like, okay, cool. We're going to lean on the defense. Well, with the Derek Mason thing, I because it's purportedly a personal issue and has nothing to do with football, I think right now it's galvanizing some of the defense. And you got to think Joe Bob Clements has been there for years. Coach Duffy's been there for years. Coach Hammersmith's been there for years. Coach Richmond's been there for years. So it's the same group of people that had to teach everything to Mason from the Knoll system, right? They're all still there. So if the personal reasons ever come out and we figure out what it is, then obviously everybody wishes Coach Mason well. But the defense still has the talent and speed. This is easily the fastest defense we've ever had. Now, what will that all turn out to be? We don't know. And then offensively,
ask Oklahoma fans what they think about Speed D.
Well, I think your thing is, to be honest with you, Venables, he prides himself on it being very complex, right?
Oh, it's complex. And probably too complex for last season.
42 new dudes, and you're trying to teach all these, you know what I mean? I think OU had a lot, bit off a lot, honestly, this
no
season.
Doubt.
And Venables thought he could squeeze it all in, and then you kind of had to tweak some things, and then it looked a little better there towards the end. So
it did, but there were still problems with the way, there was still plenty. I think that the main thing is that nobody thought, I mean, even me included, there were people that thought that it was going to be a lot better right away on the defensive side. And you kind of discount the fact that there was actually a lot of losses, even on a defense that wasn't good. There was a bunch of guys not there. So, it was going to take a defensive recruiting class like what they put together, which was, I mean, I was just in San Antonio at the All-American Bowl, and all the guys that he brought in, Makari Vickers, people like that, nobody threw his way because he was blanketing every receiver. That's not something you've seen. 6'1", big cornerbacks with speed and strength, that you just haven't seen a whole lot of that in Oklahoma in a long time.
Right.
You've got
the Venables effect.
Yeah, and listen, and along that defensive line, I think that they'd like to see more defensive tackles coming in, and even though he did grab some of them through the portal, but the edge rush guys that are really starting to look good as far as depth is concerned there. So there's reason to have hope there.
Yeah,
that's where the difference is offensively for you guys. I wonder. That's what you've always kind of been known for, is offense and being able to go throw up points, so that if your defense isn't top 20 in the country, can you still win? And with a brand new quarterback and a bunch of new receivers and running backs and everything else, what can you realistically expect? I mean, you said that kind of a make or break season for 2023. What is a make season? What does that look like?
Well, I think oh my goodness gracious, I'm going to say it. There is absolutely no reason that Oklahoma State University has not ascended to the heights that anything less than 9 wins is an abject failure.
Okay.
Period. It doesn't matter what the roster is, right? If you're going to continue to build and build and build, we cannot keep having the reload conversation or rebuild conversation.
Conversation.
We got to start having the reload conversation. And if we're not going to have that conversation, what is the point of having all these transfers come in, right? As I talked about this earlier, if it's not so much about what we've lost, in my opinion, it's about what we will lose next year if this happens again, right? You've got Colin Oliver, you've got Kendall Daniels, you've got Justin Wright come in, you've got Xavier Benson, you've got Lyric Rawls, you've got all of your O-linemen back. You have some of the meat and taters that you need to be productive. But if we do this again, all of those guys we just mentioned probably move on, right? That's the thing, is these guys are stoked for 2023 on defense. Clearly the emphasis on offense is not going to be throwing the ball very much. We've retained all of our O-linemen.
So weird to me.
Well, it is crazy because Ollie Gordon leaves to go for a more power-oriented system that fits him, correct?
Sure.
And then we lose a bunch of wide receivers, and we bring in a bunch of tight ends, and 4 O-linemen.
You got to be able to move the football, man. You got to be able to move the football.
It looks like the emphasis is going to be on the run game, which is why you're not hearing a panic about all the wide receivers. Now, again, there's an issue that we need to resolve inside that locker room at the wide receiver core, right? We know that there is. Us hiding it and pretending it doesn't happen is so mind-blowingly irritating to me. And it's
Right.
just like, if you hear it directly from some of these parents and players' mouths, we have some people that want to pretend that it's not true. Like, get the hell out of here, guys. We're hurting our university's growth by pretending that we can keep everything in this little bitty baby box. I'm not stupid. I know that there's things in the locker room that should never go anywhere because that's where it should stay, right? I played the game. I get it. I'm
Right.
not, and you've seen my show. I have never, nor would never, put a kid in a stupid position and ask a stupid question.
Sure.
Because I'm very well aware that there's some things that you just don't talk about.
Well,
Hell,
you're gonna stick him in a position where he's gonna be in trouble with the staff.
and we're
You would
going to
never
talk
do
about
such a
the
thing.
good
I get
stuff,
that. No, of course not.
but we also need to be honest because
Sure.
we cannot keep selling people on something if it's not reality, because recruits nowadays, they talk to each other. Their parents
Absolutely.
talk to each other. They go to 7-on-7 circuits all across the country and talk to each other. And they
I
talk
have
about recruiting trips.
argued and complained about fans themselves in Twitter and in the Twitter space, which is a freaking cesspool, man. We've talked about this before. But you've got these guys that are tweeting at recruits for not coming and doing this and that,
bro.
and they act like they're helping. Fellas, you're not helping.
And then
Shut
my
up.
biggest thing is, if I can get on a little baby soapbox real quick, is the Oklahoma State fan. We've had to fight for years and years and years to get any Oklahoma State coverage, any. And then with some of the O State dudes that are good at their jobs, let's be real, they're putting this box too of what they can and cannot ask Gundy.
No, that's the whole deal after the bowl game was amazing to me. That he shuts him down, and you've been part of what I'm hearing when you say is that the access to Gundy and his program is this anyways.
Correct.
So
very,
after
very
that,
effective.
there was no telling, and it seems to me like the guy that asked this question is one of his yes man type of reporters anyway. So
but he's a local, Marshall Scott. He's an Okie. But yeah, Gundy he treated him like an idiot that should have known better to even ask.
Right. Yeah. And it wasn't even an out of bounds question. That was not an out of bounds question.
It was a very legit question. It was a question he
what kind of movement
answered or passed it off for later.
Yeah, we're taking a look. I mean, and that's what you would have expected. That's what you would have expected was for him to say, look, we hadn't made any decisions on that yet. We're going to evaluate the season and we're going to make some choices on that. Because already, and the other reason that it was a fair question to ask is that you are hemorrhaging football players. You didn't even have your starting quarterback to play against a dumpster fire of a football team as well in Wisconsin, who they can't beat anybody in the crappy ass Big Ten all year. But I mean, they literally finished better than two teams in the worst division in college football.
Agreed.
The Big Ten West. They're
terrible. I mean, obviously, I'm far more optimistic than you. But I watch OSU players all day, every day, right?
Right. No, but what I'm getting at is that there was a legitimate question.
Yes,
is
100%.
there going to be some movement in your coaching staff so that we don't see this next year,
bro?
So that we see them return to what they are, and you stop the bleeding here. He calls the guy an ass and threatens to take away his access to the program altogether, and basically get him fired.
I've been told he's taken that dude's access previously, and this is again, man. I'm fighting an uphill battle, evidently, and it's sad, to be honest with you. Instead of us trying to get Oklahoma State out to the masses, we would rather keep it constrained. Because we're trying to set a narrative. I don't care if you're trying to set a narrative. Your recruiting class.
Then you're wasting your time. If narratives need to be set, then you're doing something wrong, and that's the way that I would feel about it. I feel like if your focus is on that instead of improving your program, and particularly right now when you have an opportunity to kind of move forward.
Yeah.
And say what you want about Texas and Oklahoma, blah, 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 blah. I don't care about that. That's not even what I'm talking about.
Roger,
they're gone. So come forward, take your rightful spot if you're Oklahoma State, because that should be your rightful spot now. You are the old guard left.
I agree.
You're just going to give up the conference to UCF and BYU and these guys because that's what looks like it's going to happen.
With it getting better, we don't have I don't think we have a lot of room for error. We do still have the consistency and the money and the facilities to stay at the
For
top.
how long
right?
though? How long are they going to do that if they're middle of the road, 7 wins, 6 wins,
I
whatever?
agree. Which is why next year's to me it's bang or bust. If we don't win at least 9-10 games, I don't care how it happens, what happened, who happened to who. We've got to move on.
One more question before I let you go.
Hit me good.
You brought this up off of air earlier. Cale Gundy, what's up with that?
I don't know, man. I've been hearing this is basically a done deal. That the ink is darn near dried as of like last week. So why we're not making this announcement?
I would have announced that pretty loudly.
I agree, bro. I agree because
he's a recruiting
there's
genius.
nobody in the state of Oklahoma that has a better grasp on recruiting than Cale Gundy. Nobody at any college anywhere.
Yeah, there's one guy that can say, I recruited Joe Mixon, I recruited Adrian Peterson, I recruited D.D. Westbrook, I recruited, C.D. Lamb. One guy. And
I'm hearing he's going to be obviously heavily involved in some of the quarterback stuff, which will be something that's a little bit new for him.
He's a quarterback, man. Yeah, he was a quarterback. That's
from a recruiting perspective alone. Yeah, no, you're right. Like, I don't understand how we have an arterial bleed and we just, instead of discussing anything, we just put a big old muzzle on it. And
this is why I was asking you. Is it, to me, that doesn't seem like real. I can't imagine that you would not, unless you're trying to insulate, that you don't want to make that announcement yet because then their expectation level for recruiting goes up. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me.
Brother, man, if there's one thing we can agree on, Gundy's decision-making process and what he tells us for the last 18 years, it's always like, wait, I'm sorry, what?
Say that again? Yeah. Well, Cody, I appreciate you coming on and to not get you any more trouble, we're gonna kind of leave it at that. That being said, what I would tell you is I'm with you on this, and I've been watching you a lot, fighting the good fight there on Twitter. Don't let them cancel you and continue to do what you're doing. And I give you a lot of respect for saying the things that you say. It's hard to be the one guy that isn't afraid to say what needs to be said. That is a part of, the local contingent of guys that are covering the program. It's hard to be that guy that's going to step up and say what needs to be said sometimes, but I give you a lot of props for doing it.
Appreciate it.
And we know that no matter what, we got you back here, and we will continue to have you on as much as you'll come on. So appreciate you coming on to the show.
I appreciate you. I've known your intro, but your new intro is pretty legit. I like that.
Hey, thanks, man. Appreciate that. Now, listen, guys. So anybody, you can find him at All Day O State, right? All Day O State on Twitter. Tell us where else to find you so that we can continue to bump up your numbers.
That's it. I just do Twitter, really. I have Facebook, but it's O State. It's all day, whatever. It's
and then the Locked On Network, of course, correct?
Yes, Locked On Oklahoma State. You can find me there. And I have an Instagram, but I just basically Twitter. I'm not a big social media fella.
Yeah, me neither. But that's where I was just make sure that you listen to his show. He's on daily on Locked On Oklahoma State, and you can find that on all your podcasting platforms as well. All Day O State on Twitter. And folks, make sure that you hit the like and subscribe button. Let us know what you think in the comments about this as well. This isn't just a Gundy bashing session. We want to know, how do you get Oklahoma State better? Obviously, Gundy has plenty to answer for, but
yes,
how do you see this getting better if you're an Oklahoma State fan? What needs to happen? Let us know in the comments. We'll continue talking about that as time goes on. Cody, again, thanks a lot for coming into the show. Folks, we will see you on the next one.